Hi, Christopher.
Hi,
Thank you for joining us for Shop Small Sunday at Noble.
thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to do this. Obviously, I mentioned earlier that the reason we launched Shop Small Sunday is because we felt like supporting and empowering each other really is a mandate. And so each Sunday, Noble's highlighting different entrepreneurs and creatives that are doing amazing things. And I feel like, because 2020 has been so challenging and continues to challenge us, that now more than ever, we really need to support each other and recognize that we're all in this together. So I'm really excited to do this with you today because we actually opened our store in Newark in October 2013. So it's kind of like my first child, and it's now about 7 years old. And so I'm really excited to show Newark some love today. So with me today is Chrystofer Davis. Chrystofer Davis is a Newark, New Jersey native and an 11-year fine art photographer, teaching artist, and filmmaker whose work is influenced by street, portrait photography, and contemporary culture. During the course of Chrystofer's career, he has worked, collaborated, and showcased with world-renowned companies and celebrities, in addition to hosting seminars and lectures. These feats include Michelle Obama, New York Magazine, Leica Camera, Puma, Urban Outfitters, Damon John of Shark Tank, MTV, Vogue Italia, Rutgers University, and B&H, to name a few. Peer Space quoted him as one of the 5 best fine art photographers in Newark. The New York Public Library's Schoenberg Center for Research in Black Culture archived his work during his act of documenting COVID-19. As a teaching artist, he is currently using his expertise to facilitate workshops to show the importance of keeping film and developing alive, as well as documenting the many faces and architecture of Newark, New Jersey. So, thank you again so much for doing this. I just want to jump right in and say, how did you start your career in photography and filmmaking?
Well, definitely it started back when I was attending Central High School in Newark. I had a social studies teacher who was a filmmaker and photographer himself. And one day we had a free period in class, and he brought me over to his desk and he gave me his Canon 5D, and he said, "I want you to go ahead and photograph some of the students and the staff that's around the school," because he was putting together the yearbook of Central High School. And from that moment on, that made me want to go further into photography and make it a career. And then fast forward, going into college, I went to Bloomfield College in Bloomfield, New Jersey. Uh, I went there and I studied digital video. And throughout that time, I networked. I was actually hired by the school to do photography, and during that time in there, I was able to network with a few people who've had internships at different high end companies and streetwear clothing companies. And just through those connections and working really hard, I was able to go further along and have my I was doing music videos back then. I had a music video premiere on MTV. It was great because my grandmother, she saw it, and she lives all the way in Rochester, New York. And further along, I had a friend, he was designing for Fubu, and he was helping. He was saying that, hey, we're looking for a photographer, to help jumpstart the brand. And we went along. We did a commercial shoots, with Puma, which was a great opportunity. And yeah, and up to this point now, I'm doing a lot of documentation of Newark. Because that's something I want to further work on. Besides being in the commercial and in the fashion industry. I thought it was important for me to amplify the voices and make sure that Newark is heard and shown in a positive light.
That's awesome. And so obviously it sounds like you're really inspired by Newark. But even beyond Newark, kind of what inspires you? Obviously if you're working on a project for a client, that's a little bit different, right? But
Right.
if you're working on something for yourself, which sounds like this documentation of artists life in Newark, etc.
Mhm.
Kind of where do you find inspiration? What are the moments that you find inspiring? Is it big things, small things, kind of every day versus the one-off experiences? Like what brings you life?
Well, I think it's just seeing the citizens of Newark just live their normal everyday life, And through photography and utilizing my camera, it helps me connect, to my fellow Newark citizen, and really have a conversation with them, and really hearing out their stories. I think that is what makes me inspired to capture Newark, just to you know amplify the voices of people and to really make them heard. Because sometimes a lot of people in Newark, they have stories to tell, about their experience in Newark, or what they're looking forward to, with the future of Newark. And that's what really keeps me going, and just showing just a lot of just positive images, and just really controlling that narrative of Newark, that we are a family, that it is an artist centric city, that we care and and love for each other, and that we just want to see more growth and more positives in Newark.
Yeah. I guess on that note, like, you mentioned that you have been documenting some of the crazy things that have happened with the pandemic. How has that been for you in terms of just what you've seen documented, and then how that has maybe influenced your work as well?
All right, so before the beginning of the pandemic, I've always known Newark to be a very lively place, filled with people and street vendors, and food carts that are out there. And as soon as the pandemic started, a lot of that just started to dissipate, and I was very saddened by this. And so with the media and COVID-19, a lot of the major cities, we're right across the water from New York City, so New York City was definitely getting a lot of attention and a lot of documentation of what was actually happening there. And I felt as though that Newark, it deserves its time and space of being documented. And so going out there, seeing the empty streets, I try to capture as much as I can, and try to speak to people, and figure out how their experience is. And a lot of people, in street photography, sometimes they're very timid of getting their photograph taken, but by telling them that, hey, I just want to preserve this moment and just to really document what's happening, they were more eager to have their photograph taken. And even with some of the business owners who had to close down, temporarily because of COVID, I was able to, speak to them one on one, and and socially distance inside of their stores, to
Mm-hmm.
really just photograph them and how they're trying to maintain and pretty much adapt to this new change that we're having in life. Uh, and that's pretty much what I've been doing, is just capturing different stories about what different people are doing as far as the COVID. I have a friend of mine. She's a nurse, and she's a local Newark artist, and she's telling me about ways of how she's coping, with battling COVID on the front lines, and but using her artworks to help calm her patients. And I even have a friend as well. He's an inventor, and he actually made a mask that is self-powered, that you can charge it, put it on, and it'll start to bring in some fresh air. So these are some of the interesting stories that not a lot of people know about in Newark, and I just wanted to share those stories, and just to make their voices heard.
Yeah, I love that. I guess, have you seen a change in how people have felt, towards the early end of the pandemic, right? So like we got shut down in mid-March,
Hmm.
versus what they've been sharing or feeling about now. Do you find that people are more optimistic? Do you find that people are just exhausted? This has been going on for like 8, 9 months now or something. Like what's the vibe?
Well, in the very beginning, of March, a lot of people, they weren't necessarily in a panic, but they were just more so just concerned, and they want to stay inside and stay indoors until everything starts to subside. And ever since we've been having some of the demonstrations, as far as Black Lives Matter, and so in the current climate that's happening, a lot of people came outside. They came to demonstrate and protest. And then as soon as we started to see that the numbers started to climb down, a lot of people were feeling very hopeful and optimistic that things will start to change. And now that we have some of the the new these different restrictions about keeping 6 feet away from each other, or just like being very distant in the social space, like a lot of people are starting to adapt now, and now they're starting to just get used to the new normal, and to just work around that, still live their everyday lives, but just in a safe manner. So I feel like from then to now, everybody's just they're they understand what exactly they have to do to keep themselves safe, safe, as well as their colleagues, friends, and family.
Yeah, I think some of the most amazing moments that I saw recently was like everyone was at the corner of Broad and Market Street and they were all like dancing.
Hmm.
And that was like during one of the earlier, I believe, like George Floyd protests. And I just think that
Yeah.
that's like such a testament to what people who are from Newark really are. Like it's
Hmm.
very much a community. I can just speak to, you know, it was obviously very challenging for us when we were closed. But when we got to reopen, one of the things that I was really worried about, because again, the news made it seem like there were going to be like screaming people who were going to refuse to wear a mask. And we've not had any of those issues, right? Everyone kind of understands
Right.
like I wear this to help you out and you are helping me out and round we go. And so yeah, I can echo that in terms of just kind of how much amazing community there is, and I've seen it, and experienced it, and are very thankful for that, especially in this moment. Um, so you also mentioned that you are teaching artists. So can you share what that means, and where do you teach?
So I do teach darkroom and developing as far as film photography. So I actually teach at the Newark Print Shop, which is downtown Newark, and we pretty much just show everybody exactly how to go from a box of film to going along and developing their film and making silver gelatin prints in the darkroom and alongside of that as well. So I teach people, like I said, as far as just like anything film related and just really just encourage them to break that fear of shooting film. Because sometimes we're in a society that's we have our cell phones and we have instant gratification, but when it comes to film photography, you have to use your actual vision and what exactly you're trying to capture. And that's what I pretty much do at the Newark Print Shop at this very moment.
Awesome. Can you share a little bit more about what the Newark Print Shop is, and for people who have maybe not heard of it before?
So the Newark Print Shop is a nonprofit who shows different ways of doing printing. So we actually come in. You can actually come in if you have a design that you have in mind. You can make T-shirts, you can make hoodies, totes, and you can print along different fabrics. It's definitely a home to people who are looking to become entrepreneurs and clothing designers to to help encourage them how to bring your ideas to life and to put them on an actual t-shirt.
That's awesome. So you can do screen printing, you can do actual photography printed, right? Um, are there other things that they could also do, or are there classes? Kind of how does it work? If I wanted to show up tomorrow, can I?
Right. So we have a thing called Print Club. So every Wednesday and Thursday from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. You can come in with your design and any amount of shirts that you have, and you can come in. You can start designing. Whatever whatever your creativity brings you. And that comes as well as with the darkroom developing as well. If you have a bunch of rolls of film, or let's say if you had some rolls of film from many years ago that your parents may have stashed away, you can come on in and we'll have all the equipment there for you, and you'll begin to develop.
That's amazing. Um, and what made you get into teaching?
Well, I feel as though that is I have like a second passion for teaching. I'm just in awe just by seeing somebody grow from not learning something to actually becoming like a master at it, and just seeing people thrive and grow. I think that's what really brings me joy with it when it comes to teaching. And actually I have the opportunity to come back to my alma mater and actually teach people about the ways of capturing in the digital space as far as photography, and
Mm-hmm.
just really helping them grow into the artist that that they can become, in
Did
their future.
you did you ever think that you would do that when you were in school?
No, I never thought I would. I did have dreams of photographing for Puma and different other companies, but when it came to teaching, I felt as though that it just came along with this journey, and now
Awesome. So
I'm further along.
we've got a few months left this year. What is on your 2020 horizons? Any projects that you're working on that you would love to share, or goals, aspirations, to try to end this year on a high note versus uh, what had happened in the middle?
Well, so at this very moment, I'm working on two books. One is called Beaching in the New Normal. I actually had a chance to go out to Coney Island and just really document how, everybody was going about, their summer, as far as going to the beach and, congregating
Mhm.
there. Because with a lot of people, we had fear of, just actually just going out, into these large public spaces that we know to be crowded. I was just very curious about, how is everybody, enjoying their summer, at the beach. So I went ahead and documented that. And then my other book is called Walk With Me. I've been working on that for 3 years now. And it's just more so about my experience, with just walking around and roaming around in Newark. Because sometimes, a lot of people have fear of, walking downtown Newark or just any other part of Newark, and feel as though that something may happen to them. But, I feel very safe in Newark. I feel safe in Newark than anywhere else. And, I just wanted to share that with people and just to showcase that. And just to document some of the, like I said, the architecture and the faces of the people, in places of Newark.
That's awesome. So I think on that note, if people are interested in learning more about the print shop, learning more about what you do, how do they find you and how do they find the print shop?
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram is dolo underscore photo. That's DOLO underscore FOTO. And then my website is chrisdavis.co. That's CHRYSDAVIS.co. And then you can find more information about how to do printing at www.newarkprintshop.org. And then you can also find them on Instagram at Newark Print Shop.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been really amazing. I'm so glad we connected. I feel like we need to meet in person. So hopefully I can get down. Maybe I'll come up with a cool t-shirt idea.
Yeah,
And you can
definitely.
help me make it come to life. But
Awesome.
yeah, and then obviously come down to the shop anytime.
Awesome. Like I said, it's an honor and a privilege. And so I thank you so much. And, being, downtown Newark, whenever I'm looking for, new hats or just new clothing, I always shop at Noble.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem.